Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing another deck guide. I usually do 2 to 3 of these a week. This one's going to be over Jeskai Blood. So what this list is set up to do, it's a historic best of 3 list that is hedging itself versus Field of the Dead Game 1 and has a pretty versatile sideboard. And the idea for these videos is I'm going to go over how the deck functions, like what your goals are early game into the late game, etc. Good matchups, bad matchups, sideboarding, and then there'll be some gameplay, and then maybe some budget options and such. So those are like the 6 points that we're going to hit on the video today. Now, if you're just into it for the gameplay and you just want a quick list, there's an exportable list down below. You can just hit export. Well, you have to go to Aether Hub and hit export. And there'll also be a gameplay timestamp you can just click on to jump in and see how the deck functions. I believe the gameplay today is against Mono Blue Tempo, which is probably the hardest matchup for this list, aside from maybe like Black White or Zoth Discard. But we'll get into the matchups in a minute. Let's go over the deck first. So here we see we have some early game with Omen of the Seas, Mind Stones, and then we go into like Blood Suns potentially and Gideon as early games. We have some sweepers, Karn. So our sideboard's mostly set up for Grafdigger's Cage. We can pull 2 of these and use them as actual sideboard cards, or we can leave them there. It depends on the situation. Caskets are real sideboard cards. You can bring in 2 of them, keep 1 in the sideboard for Karn against aggro. And then vetoes are for control. So I guess that's sort of the sideboard tech. We'll do that first, I guess. As we're going over what Karn does, because it's just easier to do in these types of decks, I think. So Aether Spellbomb, this allows you to get around U-White auras, since a lot of the time they can give their creatures indestructibility. There's also some merit for like maybe like Settle the Wreckage as a sweeper too to get around indestructibility, but it's hard to like hedge yourself against every single matchup. So I feel like it's really important to have this type of a sideboard. Angel is also a nice one that U-White auras can't beat. Once this card resolves, they basically lose. So it's a really good one to keep in your sideboard for Karn. Anyway, let's get back to how the deck actually functions since we've hit the sideboard a bit now. So Omen of the Seas, early game plays, Mind Stones, you can use these for draw late game, but typically they're just used to ramp into a turn 4 sweeper, turn 4 Karn, etc. And they just give you extra mana to work with for stuff like Sphinx's Revelation, and it ramps you into your win con, which is Approach of the Second Sun. Now, we could move Approach up to 3, but I feel like 2 is a pretty good sweet spot, especially since we can just win the game with Gideon, or win the game with like Karn. Like with Karn Parhelion, this is like a 2-turn clock. You kill your opponent in 2 turns. The way that it works is you +1 Karn after you've cast this the following turn. So after this has been out on the field, so it doesn't suffer from summoning sickness, you +1 this, it becomes an 8/8. It overrides the 5/5, the 6/7/8 for the converted mana cost. Since it is not a creature yet, can still be targeted by the +1 for Karn here. Up until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact, which Parhelion is until it crews, becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. So you get an 8/8, and then you get 2 4/4s swinging in as well. So that's 8, 12, 16 damage? Like, if you've dealt any damage to them before with a Gideon, they're dead on the spot if they didn't gain life. Just a really fun combination. You're not going to be able to use that too much, but I'm giving it as an example, as an alternative win con, in case someone necromentias your Approach or something if they're on Chromatic Black or a weird list with a sideboard. On top of that, you have Pact. So the other cool synergies with this list. So the idea is to ramp up, play Blood Sun. Your other form of ramp is Lotus Field with Blood Sun. When Blood Sun is up, Lotus Field does not require you to sack 2 other lands, but it will still produce the land, the extra land, the add 3 mana of any color, because it is still a mana ability. And this also shuts off Field of the Dead. It shuts off Field of Ruin for the opponents. It shuts off Vantress and Control. It's just sort of a fun main board sideboard card, if that makes sense. It's so good. Now, it's a little clunky because if your starting hand looks like Sacred Foundry, Clifftop, Lotus Field, you might not be able to keep it. It just depends on how you're feeling, what you feel like you can draw into, the odds of it all. But we do have a lot of early game plays like Omen. And Mind Stone allows you to play this and then play Blood Sun the following turn and then Lotus. So you don't necessarily always have to play Lotus on curve either. You can wait on it for a second. You'll get better at that too. Like if you've ever played like a Strider Stone deck, like Lotus Field is sort of common in those, so you'll get a feel for it over some playtesting. So Pact of Negation Gideon, good combo, 0 mana, Emblem. As long as you control Gideon, you can't lose the game. So you can't lose the game with Pact of Negation. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. If anything, you can also like hold up Pact of Negation after you tap out for approach, so your opponent can't like resolve a Eugene, for example. Now, I think Crokeys has been teching Pact of Negation in his Field of the Dead deck, which tells me two things. A, it's going to be popular, and two, it's probably not such a bad card. Usually Crokeys has a pretty good sense of the game in regards to what's going to be successful, what kind of works a little bit. And he's very good at tweaking meta lists, like taking a list that's already very good and making 1 or 2 card changes. It's what I'm working toward as well and what I think I excel at. But since his ideas sort of line up with mine, it's sort of like nice to know, you know what I mean, that multiple people are on the same page about Pact being a decent card. I love it. Now, so that's pretty much how the deck functions. You get a little bit of draw here, and you basically just shut up Field of the Dead. And then you got your sideboard. So, budget options. I guess we can go into that. Or we can do matchups first. Let's do matchups first. So, Jund Food is still a little rough, because if they resolve the Citadel and they get Mayhem doubles going and such, it's very hard to keep up with. I've started to value vetoes a lot more in that matchup, both for the Thoughtseizes and for Citadel. Like them being able to play that out and do ignorant stuff really early on is rough, especially when they can go like Paradise Druid, turn 2, or like Goose turn 1, Paradise Druid turn 2, and then they go into like Phyrexian Tower, they float mana with the Paradise Druid, they crack the egg, they sack the Druid, or they sack the Goose more likely, and then they're able to cast Citadel on like turn 4 or something. And it's just so hard to keep up with, man. Or turn 3 even. I think they can get it out on turn 3. 1 ramp, 1 land, 2 lands, Paradise Druid. I don't know. It's rough. They can definitely cast it super early. So being able to have a veto for that type of stuff is nice, especially since they have to Thoughtseize you instead of setting up for extra mana, to make it so that you can't veto them. You won't be able to Pact of Negation unless we're also Mind Stoning. So that's something to consider, is like our only option against Citadel basically is veto or Pact. And after that, it gets really hard. Like we can Karn and we can try to get like a Meteor Golem to take it out, but that's a lot of mana and they probably already went off. So Grafdiggers helps a lot there too. Because you can go, because they have a sideboard for Reclamation Sage, but it's not main deck. So you can go -2 Karn, Grafdiggers, they can't play creatures off their library. It also shuts off Coco, Collected Company. So it's just a really good tool to have against them. And depending on how many Karns you keep in your main deck, you want to keep almost all of your Grafdiggers in your sideboard so you can always grab it with Karn. Like you can grab it twice. And that's usually more reliable than having it in your deck as a card. So something to consider. Other matchups. Field of the Dead, I think we're super favored against them because we just Blood Sun them, and then their only reaction to Blood Sun is to exile it with Eugene at least game 1. In their sideboards, they could have like Reclamation Sages, whatever. But game 1, we definitely just win. And then they have to sideboard in cards just for this while we're still working at our win con. If we just slow them down a little bit, then we can usually approach and win for the most part too. So like, there's that option. So Field of the Dead, I think we're pretty favored. What other matchups? Goblins. I mean, we have Clarions, we have Wraths, and we have Grafdiggers in the side. And we've got Caskets to slow them down. Like, it's an okay matchup. I don't think that it's going to be too common in best of 3 too much. Maybe if people are saving up wild cards for new decks, that could be really common, that people are just slamming Goblins in constructed events or on the ladder. Just depends on how it goes. But you can tech a little bit if you want to against Goblins, like maybe some more sweepers, etc. But right now I think we're like at least a little even with them, at least in best of 3, where we can bring in Caskets from the sideboard and such. What else are there for decks? Mono Blue's tough, but it's winnable. You've got Pact of Negation now as a tool to slam through board wipes and such, so it's not too terrible. I like it a lot. Flash in general can be really tough. Like any of the decks that usually do well against control will do well against us. I think the hardest matchup in the game right now is like Demonic Pact. Here we go. So Demonic Pact. So the decks, the Orzhov list, the black white or like Esper Egg, like Esper Dance, using this is very hard to deal with because they eventually just cripple our hand. Demonic Pact deals 4 damage to any target and you gain 4 life. Target opponent discards 2 cards, you draw 2 cards, lose the game. So you use like Yorion to flash this in and out. And usually it's not a Yorion list per se. It's a 60 card deck that runs like 2 or 3 Yorions in the main. And it's a really aggressive list that's hard to beat for control because they also run like Thought Seizes and stuff. So this deck is hard to beat. It's one of our counter picks. It's probably harder than Goblins and such as well. So just something to consider is like when you're going against these types of lists, don't feel so bad. Like just do what you can with your vetoes and whatnot. Like if you veto this twice, you win. Basically, they don't have a lot of recursion in their sideboard for it. Or not sideboard, sorry, any recursion for their graveyard for it, to my knowledge. So if you sideboard in more vetoes and you just kind of try to get there, it's not terrible. It's just still hard. So just something to consider. They also have like Doom Foretold, which hurts us a lot because we have to start sacking like our ramp, our Mind Stones, our Omens, etc. Our Blood Sun gets turned off. It's really tough, but there is a chance to win. You just have to go for it, and then if you don't, then you know that's just that. That's probably our toughest matchup. We've already kind of gone over the sideboard, so budget options, I guess, are on the chopping block next. Priorities for crafting here are going to be, I would say Gideon's probably pretty important. I like Gideon as a secondary win con. You could try to run it without Gideon, but I feel like that's sort of the control that I'm trying to go for right now is Gideon Pact of Negation as the thing. Blood Suns are good. If you just want to run this as like a Jeskai shell, you could like, if you have it, you could go like Whirlwind of Thought, and then you could go like more instants and sorceries and just sort of lean on approach a little bit more than the Karn and the other stuff for sideboards. But Karn's still a non-creature, so it still does this. You can still use Mind Stone, this still draws you a card, etc. Like you just use a lot more instants and sorceries basically. Maybe cheaper counter spells, like still include some vetoes. Probably don't craft the packs yet. I'd say in priority, if you want to play this exact list, Gideon is really important to have a secondary win con approach. Obviously, you need this card, so 2 rares there. That's all you really need to play this list if you already have the Karns. It's just the approaches. And then like the Blood Suns are good. Like hopefully you just have these from playing Ixalan or whatever. And then rotation happens, so hopefully this is just a catch up where you just need to wait on your Amonkhet Remastered cards. And instead of pack, you could just play more vetoes or like absorbs if you could. But absorbs are really harsh on the mana. I think it's like a 60% chance to cast it. It's not very good. That's why I like the vetoes, because it's only 2 mana. And it can't be countered, so it's just non-interactable. It's nice. And you don't need to craft the Wraths, just play Shatters. Don't worry about Wraths. They're not necessary. I just crafted them instantly and almost regretted it because I want more rare cards to brew with other lists, but such is life. I'll save up some more resources and get some more cards soon, you know? So I'm not going to be too worried about it. We're just kind of doing what we can, you know? Sphinx's Revelation isn't necessary either. You could just have like a Chemist's Insight here, or like a Thassa's Intervention if you wanted something to counter / dig a lot for an approach. That could work too. And that's pretty much it. Like everything else is pretty budget. You don't need the Platinum Angel sideboard, but it's nice. The Parhelion, like the Glass Caskets, the Grafdiggers, like this stuff is necessary. Like the Spell Bomb's definitely worth the craft for a common. The Grafdiggers are good for the meta right now. I think they're always going to be relevant in some sense. Caskets are great. Ratchet Bomb, you don't need it, but it's nice to be able to blow up the Field of the Dead tokens for 0. Crucible is kind of here. Actually, we don't need Crucible anymore, really. This is more or less like if you don't have the wild card for this, don't craft it. But the idea behind Crucible is to be able to play cards that we had to exile, like destroy early game for Lotus Field, but it's less important since we can't use it for Field of the Dead. This is a flexible card that can probably be rotated out. I'm probably going to cut this for something more relevant like 4th Casket or 4th Grafdiggers, I would say. But yeah, like that's pretty much the budget. The lands are kind of whatever. Like Lotus Fields, obviously, if you want the Blood Sun ramp, are pretty important. You could use the irrigated lands if you have a few of these. Irrigated farmlands, and like maybe replace like 1 or 2 of the check lands if you wanted to, maybe one of the basics, but I like having a few just in case people are going to Field of Ruin me and I don't have Blood Sun out yet. This also doesn't come into play tapped if you have Blood Sun up, so it's exactly like having another Hollowed Fountain once you get this rolling. So this is a pretty nice card, especially late game if you're just digging for approach and you need to keep going and drawing. This is a really good option. That's like the upper end of the budget though. That's like the opposite of a budget card. That's like if you have extra budget, there's that. So with that being said, I think we're going to jump right into the gameplay for Mono Blue. So hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you guys in a moment. You're playing Mono U. Gross. Gross. You're mulling pretty hard for that Spell Pierce, man. Well, at least we get to go first. That helps. Our Karn's not too great against them. We have vetoes, but those don't really help us in the sideboard either. I think we basically just give up the matchup for Mono U, honestly. They probably have Sailor Moon. I mean, honestly, like, my best hand's like Mind Stone into Wrath against them, but even that's not very good. Wow. Got full house, dude. Plus we lost like Teferi 3. Oh, hiccups. Good to think about waterfalls and those go right away. It's a really good life hack, by the way. Yep. Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce. Spell... Oh. They can draw a card here. Okay. So we keep them off of a card draw, which is pretty big. I can pay for a Spell Pierce. I can't pay for Lookout's Dispersal anyway. They can draw a card off of that, and then I can still pay for Spell Pierce. Okay. So I can shock this out, play Blood Sun, just to draw the card and go with it, and to make it so Lotus Field is just free. Free. Just gonna go for approach. Okay, so they counter that one. Now I still played that, so if I find the other If I find the other approach, I still win the game. They shouldn't have countered that version of it. So countered second copy. We'll just put the emblem up. Now, if they flash in a creature plus have 1 damage, it's tough. Like, if they top keck the Curious Obsession, it's really rough. But right now, we can just +1 this, and it's fine. Yeah, countering the first approach is not good. I mean, it does make it so I don't get to shuffle it back into my deck, and I do only have 2 copies of that card, but still. Like, I don't know if I copy that. Or no, counter it, I mean, not copy. Both of those are kind of medium. Pact is pretty good, though. I'm giving them a moment to catch their breath, though. A little tough. Maybe I should have saved the I'm not paying for that stuff. Yeah, right. I'm going in. No, I didn't pay. I have Gideon. Why do I want to pay? Never pay, dude. Never pay. Dun dun da da, dun da da da, dun dun da 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 dun, dun da da da, dun da da da, dun da da da, dun dun da 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 dun. The Bloodstone Suns really don't do much here, sadly. Gideons are fine. Approach is pretty necessary. I don't think they beat Platinum Angel, but I can leave that in the sideboard, plus it's really expensive. Aether Spellbomb's okay too. Alright. I don't think Karn's particularly good either. Like, he's really, really slow. And if we're bringing in caskets, we don't really need the other stuff. Blue Castle? Yeah. I had Blue Castle and Ardent Veil, dude. And then I was like, oh yeah. They're useless. We'll bring in like 2 vetoes. We won't bring in the full board. And we'll just chill out and see how this works. Is this Django? No. This is SoundCloud. This looks okay. Not gonna write home about it. That's slightly better now. Maybe I should have cast Omen, but we'll get the slow lands out of the way. Be okay. Oh boy. Oh boy, they got it. Here comes Lookout's Dispersal. Here it come. And I could try to Gideon, I guess, to curve out. Yeah. This is pretty much GG, honestly. One to the top, Jesus. Yeah, I need to draw like another glass casket to have a shot here. And then even then it's like slim. Stuff. Like I can pay for a spell pierce, I guess. That's nice. But they probably just have dispersal. If I have veto here, it would be nice. Yeah. It's like seal aways would be good too, but you can't grab them. But 7, 8, 9, that's pretty much lethal. I have to like drop active negation to have a shot here. And even then it's like slim. Still very, very slim on the win. Need Pact of Negation. Heart of the cards one time. Oof. That's almost good enough. And then death. Yep, very skilled. That's just how it goes sometimes. I think this will be fine. You can probably just bring in the Ratchet Bomb, honestly. It's not the best hand, but it might work. I think the packs are pretty bad right now without the Gideon at least, but we'll see what we can do. Just want to get this thing off the table. That way they don't have a Curious Obsession target. Yep. No Curious Obsession. Oof. It's a big mood. Yeah, it has hexproof. You can no mess with it. Okay. I actually can't develop the Mind Stone here. Like I can, but then I can't hold up veto. I guess I need to hit my land drop. I can Pact of Negation now, I guess, but... Oh yeah, now I get the Blood Sun. If they have the Shore Shark, I'm basically dead. It's so much damage, dude. Opt, okay. I mean, I'm sitting on a pact, so I'm okay. This might draw me a land. Ramping up. Yeah. Ooh, this is close. They might play another Storm Tamer to stop the casket on this. Nope, okay, cool. Oh, that's a good one. I can still pay for like Spell Pierce and stuff too. Surge Mare. It's your boy. Okay. This thing can deal what? Do 4 damage? Because we actually have good tools against this deck for the most part nowadays. They're gonna discard an island 100%. Nice. So they can deal 2 damage to Gideon if they want to. I just need another pack to push through or veto. Oof. So they're gonna swing face then, right? Ooh, Gideon lives. I can draw with this as well. Okay. That is quite good. Let's go ahead and draw a card here.
Try getting through me.
We need Sphinx's Revelation. Oof. Let's see how this goes, he says. That's good. Oh no. Oof. I had the nuts, dude. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully the gameplay kind of showed you how the deck can function even through a really tough matchup. We got super lucky, to be fair, but I mean, that's going to happen if you want to win those 45, 55 matchups, you know? Like, I think that's about where we're at with Mono Blue. It's so rough, dude. They have so many good new tools too. Like the new unblockable dude and such. Anyway, if you guys have any questions about the deck or what I plan on brewing next, etc., if you guys have ideas for brews, throw them in the comments below. I'll try to respond to those as soon as I can. And there'll be an end screen here real quick. If you click on my face and subscribe, that really helps the channel. And I'll be putting up some more deck guides this week. There'll be like a next video too if you want to check out some more content. So hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys soon.